YouTube community, Vince Guaraldi Trio fans, random people on the internet, my name is Giggens, and we are here today to talk about original soundtrack recording. It's The Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, Vince Guaraldi, 2022, released on Craft Recordings. Now, the reason why I find this album so fascinating and so amazing is because they actually sourced this from the original master tapes. And I say that because in 2019, this came out, which is slightly different. It's called Music from the Soundtrack. It's The Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. And this CD, I got this when it first came out, it's like they ripped the audio from the TV show. So you hear sound effects, you hear, Halloween sounds, you hear talking, you hear bits of chatter, you hear footsteps running. It's fun, and it's really cool, but it's almost like someone's playing the video in the background and you're listening to it from a different room, which is fine. But it also sounds really kind of thin because of that, which does give it sort of a ghostly, eerie feel because it's not very, expansive. With this album, they actually discovered the original tapes, which hadn't been seen basically since 1966 when this thing was put out. And they remastered them, they put them out, and it sounds phenomenal. I cannot stress how amazing this thing sounds. It's also streaming online, but the record sounds really good. Here's why. Remastered from the newly discovered original analog session reels, lacquers cut at 45 RPM by Kevin Gray at Coherent Audio. Kevin Gray is one of the masters of cutting records. Includes unreleased alternate takes and new liner notes by Peanuts historian Derek Bang. So, yes, it does come with a really expansive amount of liner notes that explain the story, explain kind of the making of the album and who was involved and what went down. And it's a great read because a couple of the guys who play with them have never even seen a Charlie Brown movie before. So they just went into this thing thinking they were making some good music. During the making of this album, Vince Guaraldi himself was kind of like, you know that song Linus and Lucy? That should be like the Peanuts theme song, which we take for granted now, but thinking that they had to make that decision is kind of mind-blowing. And you get so many alternate takes. It's a fun listen. Even on its own, if you weren't watching the movie or the cartoon short, even if you never saw it before, just the music alone is worth it. It's expertly played jazz. These were top-notch players. They made some great freaking music together. I mean, the fact that a cartoon has such an expansive and imaginative jazz soundtrack is unbelievable. I mean, you think a kid's cartoon would have happy, peppy, kind of dance-along stuff. And then you get this sophisticated jazz record as the soundtrack, and it's kind of for a lot of people, Vince Guaraldi is their gateway into jazz. The Charlie Brown Christmas album is their first jazz album, and maybe only jazz album. But man, we all know we like it. Anyways, the songs on this album are great. So you get Linus and Lucy as a track one here, and it's the version that's got the flutes going on in the background. So it's kind of an updated, slightly more of the times groovier feel, which they wouldn't really return to much after that. They kind of just reverted back to the original one. But Christmas, the graveyard theme after this, graveyard theme, that song apparently dates back to the 1950s. It was kind of marked as we'll do something with it later, and this was later. They always felt it was an eerie song, and it is an eerie sounding song, and they knew when they started working on this album that they can use it for this project, and man, it works perfectly. The Great Pumpkin Waltz, great song, beautiful song. The drum brushes, the brush, instead of using a stick, they use brushes on the snare drum. And it creates that shuffling of leaves sound. So it sounds like you're walking on the streets on Halloween night, seeing everybody in their costumes as you're walking around looking for candy. The piano lines are beautiful. They feel like a tinkling breeze as you can see the leaves kind of billowing in the air and the trees are bending a little bit. And the bass is just smooth and warm as it goes along. The strings give this melancholy feel, kind of like it's a little bit sad, a little bit wistful, knowing that this is the last time we'll see leaves for a while before winter starts. It's a gorgeous track, and it returns often. And that's kind of the cool thing about this soundtrack too, is that they have themes that they come back to throughout the show. And one thing the liner notes mentions specifically is that they knew when to put music and when to not put music because it was so much more effective one way or the other. They weren't just throwing music across the entire thing because they allow space for the characters to just be themselves, but then there's moments where the music really takes on an edge of being this is supposed to be accenting what's happening with the characters on the screen. And then you get stuff on here too, like a lot of Snoopy's songs, like the Red Baron and some of those World War I Flying Ace songs that gets along with it, Tipperary. you know, you really feel, I mean, that song in particular is really faithfully played, just piano. And it sounds like a piano roll would have been playing at that time if he was like at a bar somewhere in France. It just feels like watching the show, and you can imagine Snoopy's emotions as he's like listening to the different songs as they change, if they're happy, if they're sad. His mood changes with it, which I think is super funny. And one of my favorite themes on here, Charlie Brown's theme. It's just this great bobbing bass that's up and down, again, shuffling drums. It's a fun little song with a great just piano noodling on top. It feels like how Charlie Brown's like inner monologue would sound. It's incredible. They take music and give it character. And the character is the characters from the show. And you associate that music with how that character might think or feel or how they might act. It's really a testament to, one, the skillful playing of these guys on the album, but also how they were paying attention to the characters. They cared about them as people, and they gave them life. And associating music with anyone, a real person, a cartoon, a movie, you have that almost tangible explanation of who they are. You get the idea, the vibe from them. You understand them. And that's kind of what this music does throughout the entire soundtrack. Yeah, a lot of it is eerie because it's spooky, it's Halloween. But the moments that they capture, like introspection or wistfulness or longing, capturing feelings is through instrumental music, not words. You gotta be good at what you do for that one, and that's exactly what this album does. It's a great listen, and especially hearing, I mean, look at the bonus tracks on this, and there's tons. Basically, you get the entire show on side 1, and side 2 is basically all the outtakes. I wouldn't even call them outtakes, it's like just bonus material. Let me show what the inside looks like here. This has also been pressed, not the version I have, but there is one that's shaped like a pumpkin. You can buy that that one as well. But here's the front cover of the liner notes page. There's Snoop there. In the back, great picture of the actual tape boxes, which is really cool because they're listed as Big Pumpkin Charlie Brown as the original working title. And the liner notes here, lots of liner notes. It's a fun listen. If you're a Peanuts fan, you'll love reading about this. If you're a fan of how music is made, you're definitely going to love that because it goes into a lot of nerdy detail. The record itself sounds absolutely phenomenal. Cut at 45 RPM speed means you get wider grooves, better bass response, the whole 9 yards. And man, that Kraft logo is just, you know you've got a good album if you see that Kraft Recordings label. You know you're in good shape. The vinyl's heavy. It just feels nice. They did a hell of a job on the packaging. It's just an excellent set. So there you go. It's The Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown by Vince Guaraldi, original soundtrack recording for the very first time ever, having the original master tapes remastered, beefed up. They sound incredibly immaculate. If you're a fan of jazz, dig it. If you're a fan of the Peanuts cartoons, you'll love it. If you want to hear how music you enjoyed as a kid watching that show would sound without the sound effects and remastered and sort of like, you know, raised up so it sounds like actual music on your hi-fi system, you will really, really love how this sounds. It's available through streaming services as well, but pick up the record if you find it. You will not be let down. 10 out of 10. Hands down, I love this thing. I love the cartoon special. I mean, I've been a Peanuts fan since I was a little kid. It never gets old to me. It's just part of the holidays. You watch whatever associated Peanuts cartoon there is. So, very highly recommend. It sounds amazing. Pick it up. That's it. My name is Giggens. This has been the Vince Guaraldi Trio. I guess Vince Guaraldi and associated members of the trio. It's The Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. That's it. My name is Giggens. I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Happy Halloween. Maybe put on some good Halloween stuff. I'll see you guys later. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.